Howdy, this is Lemmy with RevZilla, here to talk to you today about Akrapovic Off-Road Exhaust. You should be checking out an Acra exhaust. You want to make your bike look better and sound better, but you also want to drop some weight, and in the case of those of you who are looking at a full system exhaust, you're also thinking about making a little bit more power. Now, Akra's making these for a reasonably limited section of the market. If you pop your bike into our bike finder, we're going to show you the stuff that fits your motorcycle, but I think you're going to find that most dirt bikes here are going to be covered 250 and 450 class. These are going to be machines that are concentrating on a motocross background. So if you're out there on a trail bike, odds are pretty good you're not going to find anything from Acra. That has a little bit to do with their company history, which we'll talk about in just a moment. Now, installation on these things is fairly typical. If you've ever installed an exhaust before, it's going to be very much like previous ones you've done. If you're working on, say, a slip-on, it's probably going to be a 1 beard on our beard scale of difficulty. Basic hand tools and a good attitude should get you done very quickly. Now, for those of you who are considering a full system exhaust, I'd say that jumps up into the 2 beard category. Slightly more difficult. You have a little bit more work to do. Again, we'll delve into that in the installation section of this video. But before we do that and I start telling you all about Akrapovic and exactly why you should be considering an Akrapovic exhaust for your bike, I want you to take a listen to this. We stuck one on our CRF 450 here, and the thing sounds absolutely mean. Tone was definitely improved, but because we left the sound inserts in on this, the volume is not excessive. So we've got a real increase in tone, but really not much bump up in volume. Here, check it out. I think we can agree that that sounds much improved over the stock exhaust in here, plus we did get a little bit of weight loss. So let's talk a little bit about what it is that Akrapovic is making. They're making pretty much the finest exhaust you can buy for a dirt bike on the market. And really, they're hitting that standard simply because they use absolutely outstanding materials, and their construction and processes really are very tightly controlled. They do a wonderful job working with the materials that they actually have. So talking history here, Akrapovic is actually named for their founder, Igor Akrapovic, a fellow who raced. And this is somebody who was looking for exhaust and simply couldn't find the quality he expected on the market. So, an enterprising fella, he actually started cranking out his own exhaust. He's making to a particularly high level, and while he was a road racer and they concentrated primarily on street stuff, it was only natural that somebody was going to cross over into the off-road world and say, hey, we really need these for our bikes as well. So it is Akra's quality in terms of their materials as well as their construction that sets them apart from their competition, which also sort of explains why they're concentrating heavily on that 250, 450 motocross specific area. Trail bikes just tend to live a much harder life than those bikes do, and really this wouldn't be an appropriate exhaust for them. These are not, these are not cheap to make, so really you don't want to beat the tar out of one of them. It's why they're concentrating on the class of bikes that's not going to suffer from impact and have short exhaust life. So let's talk about some of the construction, some of the materials that Acra is using. We're going to start with this muffler. So the things I'm about to tell you are true regardless of whether you're considering a slip-on system or one of their full systems. And we're going to start again with that muffler. This is a titanium muffler. I think it's all too often that we're looking at exhaust for off-road world, and really exotic materials are in short supply. Things like stainless and titanium, that's not commonly used. Not everybody's able to work with those materials, but Acra takes it one step further. They actually own and operate their own titanium foundry. They are controlling even the base metal that their product is made from. They have their own proprietary alloy. That's what they're constructing the mufflers out of. And as you can see, these things are really nicely made, but they're also quite light. There's a significant weight reduction that comes along with any muffler you wind up using. So again, slip-on or full system, you're going to experience a weight reduction from your factory system. Moving up here, check out some of these welds. The welds are also one of the things. This is one of those processes that sets Acra apart in the industry. These things are nearly pornographic. They're absolutely beautiful. If you're someone who appreciates finely made things, this should jump out to you as one of those things in life that is simply made very, very nicely. Very simply put, this is the finest exhaust you can put on your dirt bike. If money is no object and you simply want the best, Akrapovic is what you put on your motorcycle. So let's set that aside, and I want to step over here for just a moment, and we're going to discuss this head pipe here. Now, for those of you considering a full system, this is something you're going to want to pay attention to. Construction and materials carry through to this. Now, this is one of their evolution systems, so that means this is all an all-tie setup here. So we're looking at straight titanium here. There's a couple things here that are super nifty. Firstly, check out this spin flange on here. also titanium. You know, it's laser cut. These things are absolutely primo, beautifully built. But take a moment and think about who it is exactly that's making their own spin flanges and laser cutting them from titanium. I think you'd be hard pressed to find that in the off-road exhaust world. Those beautiful welds carry through here. You can see they've even got them polished out, eliminate stress risers. They do such a nice job in the welds. These things are just assembled so very nicely. And then you can also see here too, we have this secondary tube on here, and some of you guys are probably wondering what that is. This is, in scientific terms, a Helmholtz Resonator. So what a Helmholtz Resonator does is adds a little additional volume to the exhaust. So for any of you who've done any plumbing at your house, you may be familiar with, say, a water hammer arrestor. Kind of a similar concept here. It provides additional volume when needed. So that does two things for us. Firstly, it actually smooths out the power curve, helps smooth the power band, the power delivery. It kind of just smooths things out, really makes your bike a little bit more responsive without being herky-jerky. The other thing it does too is helps attenuate some of the sound. We all know that these things can get awfully barky with such short exhausts and these huge pistons moving up and down. They really do have an arresting exhaust note from time to time. So between, again, the rather effective mufflers and the Helmholtz Resonator here, again, you're getting increased tone without this crazy increase in volume, just straight volume. So it's a nice addition you'll see in there. And the way they work really is very simple. It's almost brilliant in its simplicity. If you look under here, you can see these two connection points. And again, it allows the exhaust to kind of move through here, and as it's drawing, the exhaust air is actually drawing through here, it changes the volume as well as the pressure inside of this cavity. It's kind of a simple but genius idea. It's one of those things you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, that's exactly, I should have made something like that. So let's talk about their lineup. One of the other things I like best about Acra is they have a very easy to understand lineup. There are some manufacturers out there where it's, you know, you're pulling your hair out trying to figure things out. They really have three types of exhaust. You're gonna have your slip-on style exhaust. It's exactly what you think it is. It's simply a slip-on muffler. It's a very easy installation there. Again, the benefits there are going to be sound, and you're also going to get something that looks a little bit nicer in addition to some weight reduction. Now, their other two options are their full systems, and those break down into two different flavors. You've got the Evolution system, which we talked about earlier. Full titanium exhaust from the exhaust flange all the way back. Of course, the other one they have in their line is the racing system. And they save you a little bit of money on the racing system because they're using stainless instead of tie here. Now again, consider stainless is also an exotic material in its own right. Really, those of you who are kind of on the fence thinking about it, if you don't feel like doing any tuning, you want something just bolt on, you don't want to think about anything, throw a slip-on onto your bike. Again, you're going to get the weight loss. You're also going to get a little bit of performance in terms of how your bike sounds. Now, for those of you who are looking instead for a little bit more oomph, you want more power out of your motorcycle, you're going to be looking at full systems. If you're just trying to get into the entry-level full system that Acra makes, which is sort of a misnomer, their entry-level system is very nice, top-tier stuff, you're going to want to look at something like the racing system. Again, that stainless head pipe there, you're still shaving all sorts of weight over stock. However, it's going to be a little bit easier on the wallet. Now, for those of you who are just going all out, you just want absolutely the best there is, you're going to look at the Evolution system. Again, that stainless gets swapped out for titanium. That is the lightest option you can get from Akrapovic. So let's chat for just a second too. One of their construction feature I think is super nifty. It's something I've definitely noticed about other manufacturers, and that is the fact that they use exhaust clamps on their exhausts. I really like that simply because it's their street bike flavor kind of carrying through there. It's all too common in the exhaust world, in the dirt world, where we just see a slip fit of two pipes and get really sloppy, it gets ugly. As things vibrate, it gets bigger, you get rattles, you get exhaust leaks, you get performance issues. It's hard to tune these motorcycles. Well, you know, the OEMs tend to use clamps when they're connecting a muffler pipe to a head pipe. Acra generally follows suit. It was one of the things I was really pleased about when we put this exhaust on our CRF 450 here. It was nice to see a factory style clamp connection. As far as a personal story is concerned, I have a trail bike. Acra doesn't make anything for that. That particular bike has a competitor's exhaust on there, and I had to figure out some way of getting a clamp onto there. It was some engineering I didn't feel like doing, and it's nice to know that with Acra you don't have to. Alrighty, now let's delve into installation. As I had mentioned, it's fairly straightforward. If you're looking at a slip-on system for your bike, I'm going to call this a one-bearder on our BSD. Just about anybody should be able to do it. If you've installed an exhaust previously, this should be a very similar scenario. It really is an easy bolt-on, bolt-off process. Also going to be the situation where I think a lot of you guys are going to, gravitate towards that slip-on if you don't feel like tuning your bike, or if you think that your bike's power delivery is, adequate, you don't want to change anything on it, a slip-on is definitely the way to go. You get the weight reduction without all of the work that comes with it. Now, for those of you who are considering a full system, you have a little bit more work to do. A couple items of note here. So obviously you're actually replacing physically more pipe. You're peeling some more things off your motorcycle in order to get to some of the parts. It does raise the labor up just a little bit time-wise, but there's a couple other things I want you to think about. The first, if you are doing a full system exhaust, please make sure that you have an appropriate exhaust gasket handy. It's the one item Acra does not include in the box. It's something you want to have ready. You don't want to be attacking one of these on a weekend, dealership is closed, and you can't get your bike back together after you pull it apart. About the only other thing I'd say that kicks this up into that two-beard territory for those of you considering a full system exhaust is that you're probably going to want to tune your motorcycle. Now, Acra says that regardless of whether you use a slip-on or a full system, these are designed to work with bikes in their stock format, and I don't disagree with them. However, we have found here at RevZilla that tuning a bike, even if it's rock stock, the bike responds a little bit better. And that's doubly so for those of you who have installed something like a full system exhaust. I consider it almost a necessity. Now, something to remember, I know we're speaking to both American customers as well as international. As far as maintaining compliance in terms of emissions, that's on you. Make sure you are tuning these bikes with a fuel controller, but also make sure you're you're not running afoul of your local constabulary. That is something I do want everybody to think about, simply because it affects all of us, especially off-road riders. We want to maintain access to the places we all ride. So if it's not evident, I really like Acra exhaust. It's very easy to sell. When somebody says that they want the best, we simply tell them Akrapovic. The materials and construction really have no peer. Don't take my word for it though, click that info button, see what some other riders who are rocking an Acra setup on their dirt rig have to say about it. If you need a little bit more help, something I didn't cover in the video, perhaps you need some help selecting or you have an installation snafu, don't be afraid to get in touch with one of our gear geeks. 877-792-9455, get your gear geek on the horn. You can always whip us up an email to cs@revzilla.com. I'm Lemmy, I'm out of here.